person, but I thought I'd do it like this now, where I got like the phone, and we're like sort of talking to each other.
Okay, cool.
So, did you know that NASA is planning to send people to the moon again in 2024?
I have heard in passing, I believe, yes.
Okay.
Also, that other countries are planning to send their people to the moon before NASA.
Oh, really? Like whom?
I can't remember now. I think it could have been China, but I'm not sure.
So what do you think about that? Is it a good thing to go and send people to the moon, or a bad thing? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Um, I think it all depends on what uh, else is happening in the world and whether sending to the, and what the purpose of sending people to the moon is. I mean, I have very romantic and poetic um, like desires for people to go into space. Um, but I also know that there's the reality that there are some very pressing problems on Earth that we also can't ignore. Um, but given the amount of money spent on luxury goods, if that moved to putting people on the moon, I would be happy.
Oh, what are some of the pressing problems uh, that you know of on Earth?
Um, have you heard of this virus that's kind of circling around? um, also, I mean, things like climate change and uh, infrastructure resilience to climate change, or to say solar activity, or to say malicious cyber or physical attack. Um, Also, rising or just any type of geopolitical instability that could increase the number of refugees that there are, um, and just the humanitarian crises that occur from that, and how they will be exasperated by things like climate change, resource depletion, stuff like that, uh, to name a few.
Um, so I started this. So I'm counting down to the end of 2024. So that's sort of like the deadline that the NASA's working under at the moment. I'm sure it's kind of a moot point considering everything that's going on. Um, but I'm hoping that whenever I like review these videos in like 2023, 2024, and afterwards, the current COVID-19 thing would be like a distant memory. Um,
Hopefully.
what do you think the odds of that happening are? That
Um, the odds of COVID being a memory in 2024.
yeah.
um, I mean, a distant memory is probably a strong word if it becomes extremely bad and kills millions of people. Um, if it peaks sometime within the next few months and a very high quality and um, highly deployed and cheap test arrives, I think that COVID will not be too much of a thought a few years later. Although there will definitely be um, felt effects from it within 2024. Some of them including um, like international political power shifts. One of them could be the power shift dynamic between the U.S. and China. Um, we don't know currently what's going to happen with the EU, for example. Italy just, if you want to call it, fell, or you want to call it rose, to join China's Belt and Road Initiative, which France and Germany and other EU countries got mad at. So I don't know what that's going to look like in a few years. And it seems likely that Italy did that because they're getting slammed by the virus, and China is going to give them aid now to support it. So um, there could potentially be like big shifts in the way that humans kind of like see their world and see like their own governments and stuff like that, which I'm not sure what will look like. But so whether COVID itself is not thought about in a few years, the second, third, etc. order effects will definitely still be present, and I don't know if they'll still be attached to the name COVID or the concept.
I mean, it's looking like school isn't going to meet physically in all the U.S. for the rest of the semester. Like all
That
the,
is true, yeah.
and I gotta imagine that if you're a senior in high school or a senior in college, this is kind of like an event that you'll never forget.
Potentially, yeah. I
And
mean, I don't think any of us will forget this, but yes.
that's true. It's kind of funny. This interview is about space, and it started out in the middle of December, whenever COVID-19 wasn't even a thing. And I interviewed some Chinese friends of mine on the day that dentist died, and it was really interesting. I didn't capture the reaction on the video, but it was really interesting, kind of marking that event with them and kind of their reaction, their outrage at kind of how this dentist was trying to raise the alarm and the way he was treated by the secret police in China.
For sure. For sure.
And it almost feels like that outrage really prompted the tough Chinese response, both on two levels. One, to actually contain the virus, but also it had the secondary thing of sort of, you know, causing this, keeping people from gathering and protesting. And, kind of, I mean, in one way, it kind of worked out from them from a political stability standpoint, I think, to isolate everybody. I was wondering what you thought about that, if that was just being overly paranoid.
I don't know too much about the origins of this virus in the Chinese context, so I can't really speak to anything about that.
Yeah, I don't think they created it. I think it took them by surprise. But I think
Yeah, for sure.
the ability to having to use health reasons to keep everybody locked up also means that you don't have to worry about big political protests and stuff. Also,
Yeah.
so it's kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might have to worry about more covert online activity.
oh, that's
But
true. Yeah, but maybe easier to monitor and control and shape.
probably.
So, it's interesting. Back in 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land on the moon. It was literally on every single news outlet. And it really, I think, was an event that brought the world together. And I think some people thought, having the first woman land on the moon in 2024 would have a similar effect. And it's kind of funny. I think this virus was way more effective than any such event like that in terms of bringing us all together. And you talk, I mean, and it's kind of proven lots of things. One is other people's health affects us. Yeah, and
We're all interconnected.
we are, whether we want to or not. We're connected. Yeah, for sure. So we should just acknowledge, accept the fact, and be mature about it, I suppose, instead of pretending
I agree.
like we're not. So if space travel became as cheap and affordable as airline travel, would you have any interest in like maybe spending a week in orbit or going to the moon or?
Yes, of course.
You would? Now, you would think that answer would be universal. I interviewed some people and they're like, no, I'm fine here on Earth, and stuff like that. But so that's cool. So, I feel like all those problems that you mentioned, I feel like going to the moon or not going to the moon is almost doesn't affect them one way or the other, because it's not like
Yeah,
going to
I
the
agree.
it's like we're not living up to our potential as individuals or as a society. It's like I feel like much of society's potential is just kind of wasted away, and we could do a gazillion things that we're not doing. And I was,
Agreed.
what do you think is like the key enabler to kind of change that?
To change, to make our ability to like reach our potential more.
Yeah,
Um, I think people need to hold moment to moment the awareness that they are a inherently interconnected entity, with everything else around them, including the people, and the planet, and like the air, and like the food that they eat, etc. That it's all like part of them, and that they are everything else. Um, Whether it is a monistic entity or a pluralistic entity that is just highly interconnected, um, doesn't matter. But I think to hold that awareness like all the time, could have a profound effect on how humans engage with themselves, engage with one another, and engage with the world in a way that I think could bring out a lot of well-being, yes, and also creativity, and that's the basis for realizing potential. So, yeah.
yeah. That's a lot to take in. I think a lot of us are sort of just sleepwalking through life, you know? We kind of do what we see
Yeah.
everybody else doing, and, we just try to. But occasionally a problem will come along that it completely absorb us and take us on a path. Um, so, yeah, it's really cool. Well, yeah, any last comments or any last thoughts?
Um, yeah, I think it'll be cool for humans to be spacefaring. Spacefaring. Um, yeah, it'll be cool. And to mitigate existential risk.
I know it'd be
If we
nice to
have,
know if there are some humans that were completely isolated. I'm sure the people on the International
yeah,
Space Station is like, I'm okay if y'all want to keep those other astronauts down there for a bit. Let's just be sure.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
No, yeah, thank you. No, thank you. I enjoyed the conversation.